Hi, good afternoon. My name is Daniel Gassaway, and the topic of this presentation is How's the Weather Indoors? I'm glad to be a part of the Weather Band Community Citizen Science Symposium in January, and thank the organizers for allowing me this opportunity to share some of this information. So we chose the topic, How's the Weather Indoors? Uh, because typically the commercial weather forecast, we may take a look at the weather before we plan a trip or get dressed to see we're going to need goulashes or umbrella or a sweatshirt, or we're going to go out in shorts and sandals. And we might get the forecast from a regional center. We give us some basic information uh, about what's going to happen in the area, but it might not give us as much detail as what's going on inside the house. As a matter of fact, between the time we spend sleeping and uh, time off from work, a lot of people spend more time indoors than outdoors, and which poses a very different weather picture than the outdoor weather. So here we have some of the equipment that has been used in this study. Over here we have a weather monitor, which we can follow the pressure trends during a frontal passage, and an outdoor monitor that allows us to compare the indoors and outdoor temperature. This is a gas analyzer, which will measure the oxygen level as well as any few of the hazardous gases that we may encounter, such as carbon monoxide. We have a simple thermometer, hygrometer that attaches magnetically to a surface where we can check the temperature, soil moisture gauge, where we can quantify the muddiness or dryness outdoors. And uh, I found out that most of the normal oxygen readings were taken outside, and we've got very few normal oxygen inside. So wanted to find out more about that in a more formal manner, which is why I undertook this study to uh, follow the barometric pressure indoors over a period of 90 days. So the study question for this period was, how much did the indoor barometer readings change at at this residential setting? Uh, So the study method for this, we started in the fall and ran it through the solstice in December. Suspended the barometer, the gas analyzer, thermometers, and hygrometer in one place in the middle of the room, and when it was convenient, went in and jotted down the parameters: barometric pressure, oxygen level, temperature, relative humidity. Placed them all on a note card, and then later came back and put the data down in a table and looked at it to uh, see the trends. It was not meant to be randomized. The samples were only taken when we were at home, when we were awake. But it's just a general, you know, more than 70 readings in the 90-day period. So the method for this study was, we selected a small room that's usually dark. The window was always closed. There's only one air conditioning heater vent in the room. The room only has one light fixture with some very low wattage light bulb that's off most of the time. Compared to the outdoors, we keep the thermostat, the same, plus or minus 2 or 3 degrees. monitor the humidity is typically below 60% and above 50% most of the time. You got a heat pump, thermostat, and little fans for circulation in the room. The elevation, about 340 feet. We're in a little bit of a stream valley here. We've got a nearby creek and some rolling hills, not very steep. We've got some busy roads, interstates, commercial buildings, school, and a lot of mature pine trees and pear trees and smaller shrubs in the area. So the results of the 77 readings that we took over a 90-day period uh, showed that the average barometric pressure was 761.24 torr. We used the units of torr, converting from inches of mercury, because once a person gets into a healthcare setting and we draw a lab sample from the circulatory system, the oxygen level is measured in torr, and this number of 760 torr is pretty normal, textbook normal barometric pressure, and it's confirmed by these readings that the indoor barometric pressure fluctuated from 752 to 771, but on average was very normal. What was not normal was that all 77 oxygen concentration readings were below normal. Now, if you look at all the components of the room air that you can't see, Dalton's law, which was it came into favor over 100 years ago, tells us that the atmospheric pressure of 760 torr total is going to equal the partial pressure of oxygen, which is what we thrive on, the partial pressure of nitrogen, which makes up approximately 78% of the air. Water vapor pressure, which by the time it reaches the lungs is 47 torr, and then some unknown trace gases, which depending on where you are and when it is, it could be carbon dioxide, ozone, any number of gases. But under these conditions, the doors were usually closed, the windows were usually closed, and the thermostat remained the same. So here it is in a graphic form. You see the orange color is nitrogen, which is by far the largest component of the air. The blue is the oxygen, which is about a fifth, and then we have those unknown trace gases, which is going to vary from time to time and place to place. Okay, for example, if we have persons tuning in remotely from different locations on the globe, if you check the barometer where you are, approximately a fifth of that should be made up of oxygen, approximately 4/5 nitrogen, and then depending on where you are, there's going to be different trace gases. There's going to be some fluctuations, but generally speaking, that should be the general makeup of the gases. But even different locations are going to have different concentrations, whether subtle or pronounced. Uh, we actually didn't measure the nitrogen, but that is a generally accepted concept that it should be approximately 78%. So the implications for this have been studied and researched over the years, and publications that we saw in PubMed, and just a brief search back in November. The change in the barometric pressure can be linked with aggressive behavior, different headaches, vertigo, dental problems, breathing problems, and heart rate changes. And that's why we are interested in that in this. So to summarize some of the scientific data that supports these health associated issues with the barometric pressure, Um, we had one retrospective analysis of over 2 years where all of the subjects, there was a positive change in heart rate with the barometric pressure change in all 19 subjects over 2 years. Another study looked at 19,218 patients at 5 different dental clinics over a period of 13 years and found significant differences in the number of tooth abscesses of their patients with the changing barometric pressure. There was one study where they analyzed different weather parameters and asthma attacks and found that the weather parameters had more impact than the air pollution in uh, asthma presentations in healthcare settings. We also had one study where they looked at 181 patients over a period of 5 years and found a positive correlation with vertigo suffering. One thing is clear from reading all these studies of it is that there are differences, individual differences based on the age, pre-existing conditions, uh, past medical history. It is clear that people are affected differently, and many people may not be affected at all. However, each one have performed the analysis to conclude a positive correlation with the barometric pressure. Now, in addition to the barometric pressure, it's pretty well known that lower oxygen levels, which we call hypoxemia, is also associated with a lot of health problems or illnesses, including, breathing too fast, your heart's beating faster, the mental status changing, mental illness flares, vision problems, headaches. These, again, are going to affect different persons to different degrees. And what we saw, even in this setting, from the lowest pressure to the highest pressure, uh, in terms of the oxygen content, a difference of 10 torr or 20 torr or 30 torr could be the difference between a mild, moderate, and severe breathing problem, which, again, people will be affected differently. But so, in summary, indoors under pretty controlled conditions, the air quality is changing. Which is independent of the pollen or the temperature. We're going to see over this 3-month period, we did see barometric pressure and gas concentrations change to a significant degree, which we didn't speculate whether it impacted us or not, but there is a good cause to believe that different people are affected differently, and there's uh, reason to see that there is a significant difference that would affect different people differently. Furthermore, when these changes that were measured in this room are very different than what was measured at the weather station, whether it be the TV station, the radio, or the cell phone, or the airport. What we saw inside was different than the broadcast that's widely disseminated. So there's a number of limitations to this study. We didn't speculate why the levels changes. We didn't speculate whether any of the residents here really had any, health problems as a result of the changes. We didn't go into any personal health information. It's using very simple equipment in just one location, which is going to be different. We've seen it different in different neighborhoods in which we resided and traveled to over the years, and we're not jumping to any conclusions or anything like that. I'm just saying that it is variable. We only looked at 3 months, which was, we have seasonal changes here, just like in the rest of the country, where the pressures we measured during these 3 months are going to be likely to change over the next 3 months. And we only took the measurements when I was awake and when I was at home. And if I'm at work or asleep, there could be significant changes during those time periods too. So there were some limitations to the interpretation, but nevertheless, we did see significant change. So one of the founding principles of the amateur citizen science weather monitoring, rain doesn't fall the same on all, where we look at rain gauges even within the county, within the state, within the region. The rainfall, varies, and I found the same with the barometric pressure, and the implications are, similar to the rain. Like, how does your garden grow on this, street corner as compared to another street corner? We're going to have the same impacts within the forecast area of the major weather stations. So what they call this is the scientific study of meteoropathy, where the weather has an impact on human health and behavior. So clearly, after gathering and looking at this data, it adds another dimension to weather watching or atmospheric existence. In addition to hot, cold, wet, and dry, we see another dimension that is not quite as obvious as the other dimensions of the weather. And I think one of the biggest implications for me is being aware that going from indoors to outdoors, outdoors to indoors, the change in the air quality, not only the temperature, but also the pressure and other variables. Like if we're going out shoveling snow or coming in from aerobic activity, is that transition period, is paying attention and being very mindful of any aches and pains, and being very cautious, and taking our time, very patient when transitioning from one air condition to another air condition, for reasons other than the heat and the humidity, is just being very cautious. Now, for those that want to know more and you want to do some more reading, these are some of the studies that we got some of the information from. It was all randomized, some of them clinical trials with hundreds or thousands of study subjects, with data that is available for review.